Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And in this case, we're talking about parenting. We're honored to be joined by Kristen Davis. She's the CEO of Nurture the Next. How are you doing?
Doing great, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
Absolutely. So we're definitely diving into the power of parenting for sure, but let's start with a little bit of history and context. Give us some history and some background for Nurture the Next.
Sure. So we actually are celebrating our 40th anniversary next year. So when we think about the journey of life in 40 years, a lot has happened in the last 40 years. And of course, even more exciting to think about what will happen in the next 40 years. So we have been in the Middle Tennessee community for 40 years and really started to expand to other parts of the state about 10 years ago and added services to some really underserved communities and really tried to build in resources specifically for parents and their young children in communities where they didn't previously exist. So we really, throughout our history, have focused on the relationship between an adult caregiver and a child being the most critical relationship that a child will have. And so if we can get it right from the start and get that relationship in a really healthy exchange and supportive and affirming and safe, then we can make the biggest difference well into the future. So that has been throughout our entire history. The main thing we have focused on is those parents who make such a huge and tremendous difference in the life of their child, but also realizing that that's not an easy job either. So parenting, anybody who's parented a child knows we joke a lot, parenting is not for sissies. So, we're here to make sure that people have the support that they need to do it well.
Well, and I think so much of it is role modeled as a child from your parents, but there is no handbook per se, which obviously that's what you're doing. And so when you talk about good behavior, bad behavior, role modeling in the correct way or the incorrect way, it's so imperative to give youth the foundation for success and do it the right way. And so I think that's where, to your point, providing the training and equipping parents to do it the right way, to be good role models, is a powerful opportunity for the family and the youth. But obviously, when you look at the ripple effect and what that means for our community at large, extremely important. And so go ahead and dive in. When you talk about the training and the, equipping and empowering the parents, dive into how it works.
Absolutely. And I'll say, I had 2 children while I have been in this position. I've been with the organization for almost 21 years. And having 2 kids in the middle of doing this work was really surreal and eye-opening, because we talk a lot about parenting is hard and it takes a village, and it's so, we really require a lot of support to do it well. But man, when you bring those babies home, it's like, oh, I totally get it now. So parenting is a learned experience, and we do so much of what we saw when we were kids. And sometimes that's really great, and sometimes we want to do it differently. And so it's a hard thing to do, and nobody gets it perfect, but it definitely takes a community of people. And kids are not just parented by one person. They're parented by community. They're parented by the extended relatives, the teachers, the faith communities, the coaches. So it makes making sure that we get all of those right, like I said, is the best way to do that. So we think about that work in 3 major pillars. And the first and biggest piece of the work that we do is around our direct support to parents of young children. So the early years of life, prenatal through age 5, are when the majority of brain development is happening. So the brain is building, and the brain is actually built in a healthy way because of relationship between a caregiver and a child. That is the way a healthy brain is built from the jump. It's kind of like building a house. You have to get the foundation right first to make sure that the house goes up right. So a brain is very similar to that. So we recognize that the role a parent plays in the development of their child's brain is really critical in those first 5 years of life. And they are often, if the kids aren't in school at that point, they're young, they don't speak, they can't tell us what's wrong. So it's really hard. It's hard to do that work. So focusing on parents of those young children who need more support, who don't want to botch it up, if that's even a thing, but they've said, I'm having a child and I don't want to do what I experienced, but I don't know what to do instead. So we think about it really as breaking a cycle when we work with those families. So we actually go into their homes, and it's a voluntary program, and we work one-on-one with that parent and that child collectively, so that we're modeling those behaviors and helping that support that parent in their parenting journey. And parents can stay in that program for 8 weeks or 5 years, depending on what they're looking for. So it really is about intensively walking alongside a parent in their journey to support them, to coach them, to cheer for them in a way that helps them know that they are doing well with their child and building that healthy relationship with their child. So that's our biggest area of services that we offer. Our second one is around advocacy and education. So I mentioned earlier that communities raise children, but sometimes we don't know, like, what's our role? What's our role in protecting kids? What's our role in making sure that kids get off to a good start? So we work a lot within communities to help those community members know, if I see a family with a young child, or I'm coaching a little league team, or I'm running a Sunday school class, how can I make sure the kids in my care are safe and loved and protected? So we do a lot of training around that and helping adults know what that looks like, because it sounds so cool and wonderful, but what does that actually look like in a tangible way? And we actually have parents that serve in our organization as grassroots advocates in the community. So they are using their experiences as parents to talk about what actually works well for parents in this particular community, whether that be policy or what's needed in organizations, what's needed in neighborhoods, what's needed in decision making. So they actually contribute in that way. And then the third bucket of service is around crisis support and intervention in crisis. So as well as we know things can go, as well as we prepare as many resources as we have, everyone knows what it's like to experience crisis, no matter who you are. Everybody's had a crisis. And so we really want to be available to parents when they have crisis and make sure that we are communicating with them in a way that walks them through that and supports them in that crisis, so they can reach out to us if something happens that they need extra support in. So all of those things rolling up into the idea that what we do now with kids when they're very, very young impacts generations to come because of that ripple effect that you mentioned.
What's been the feedback from the parents in terms of the impact?
Yeah, it's so, I mentioned earlier I had 2 kids while working here, and it gave me a whole different perspective on talking with parents about raising young children and the difficulties and the challenges of it. So we think about our work, and what we've heard from parents about their experiences with us is we think about it as they were on a path, had a child, and the path veered. So they could either go this direction or this direction. And, prevention work is hard to measure, but what they tell us is, I would not be where I am in my parenting journey and in my relationship with my child had it not been for having support from Nurture the Next. So it's really hopeful, and I think that's one of the ways that we describe our work is it's so full of hope in that we don't have to repeat generations of trauma or generations of even just hard relationships with kids. We can do it differently, and so we can set ourselves on a different path. So I would say what we hear the most frequently from parents is, I was not going to be on this path had I not had you guys. And watching that relationship between the parent and the child grow and be just so loving and kind, and the parents saying, I did not have this when I was growing up. This is not what I experienced at all. And being so grateful that they can give that to their kids.
For you as CEO, and as you mentioned, for you as a mother, what's been, and maybe this isn't the right term, an aha moment, but what's something that has made you a better mother by being a part of Nurture the Next?
Oh my gosh, just one thing, because I can list a lot. So I remember again when I had my first child, and you bring the baby home, and you're like, well, I guess they think I can do this because they let me take the baby home. So I think back to what you said earlier about kids just don't come with an instruction manual. And the aha moment of, we don't actually know in many situations what the right thing is just by virtue of having had a baby. And we don't know. We don't have this parenting instinct per se that we're so often told, oh, you'll know. It's instinct. It's instinctual. Well, that's not everybody's experience. And certainly wasn't mine. And so I think knowing that there are people who feel that way, and that say, I was too afraid to say, I need help, because there was such a stigma around, well, if I say I need help, that makes me a bad mom or a bad dad or a bad caregiver. And I can't raise my hand and say, this is really hard. But the aha moment of when you do that and you say, I don't instinctually know what to do, and I really could use some support, that it's almost like all the people around go, oh, yeah, I felt that way too. And it's almost like, why have we been so quiet about this? Why have we not said parenting is not something you're born to know? Like, you learn that from other people and from your community and from the people that support you. So I think that that's one of the things that has been an aha moment for me, is raising my hand and saying, even though I've done this job, I still need help, and I still need support. And that doesn't take away from what kind of mom that I really am. And if we could get every parent to feel that, I think we could make such a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. You have upcoming events. You have many ways we can plug in and help. And so talk about how the community can help your efforts.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, we do have our biggest fundraising event of the season in Nashville coming up on April the 27th. It's called Night with Nurture the Next, and it's held at Riverside Revival. So we'll have a great live auction. We're doing a wine pull and a bourbon pull. We are also having a special performance by Tennessee Stills. So it's going to be a fun night, great location, great spot to get involved. So that's all on our website if people want to purchase tickets. It's all there. We also do events in other parts of the state. We have one coming up in Chattanooga this summer that's a similar format, one in Oak Ridge that's really celebrating through a breakfast, the community investment in our work. So I would say our fundraising events are always fun. We always love to have a great group of people there. But beyond that, we think about what are the tangible things that families really need to be successful. So if you've ever raised a kid, you know how much diapers, as an example, cost. And diapers can really be such an inhibitor to success if you're worried about how you're going to diaper your child. So we do diaper drives throughout the community for volunteers who want to host those, and those diapers go directly into the hands of families. We're able to collect other items for safety around the house from volunteers. And then we do have volunteers that come in and help with our advocacy efforts. So we're always looking for not just donors, but friends as well of our work. And the majority of the families that we serve, well, all of them really are vulnerable families, and they're there because they want to be. They're there because they want to do better by their kids and what they experienced. So funds raised, items raised go directly into the hands of those families.
The last question is always the easy one. Where do we go to get involved? Where do we go to learn more?
Absolutely. So you can find us online at nurturethenext.org if you're the kind of person who still likes websites, but we are on all social media channels at Nurture the Next.
makes it easy. So Kristen Davis, CEO, Nurture the Next. Thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.